The PlayStation 4 is probably one of the best value for money games consoles around. It's powerful, with up to 4K resolution and a vast array of games and accessories, all available at a fraction of the original prices. Plus, it's very easy to mod, and run a full set of homebrew apps. So, let's mod our PlayStation 4. Hi and welcome to Bytes and Bits. The PlayStation 4 is a great console that's perfect for modding using a completely software-based hack. So that means that you're not going to have to open up the console and solder in any extra parts. Now there are a number of ways to run this exploit, and in this video I'll be covering the basic do-it-yourself approach. Now I will be making a few more PlayStation 4 modding videos showing easier methods, but these involve buying some custom parts for around £20 to £30, so I'll cover those after I've done this initial bare bones version, but do of course then keep an eye out for those tutorials as I make them. So to jailbreak the system in this bare bones type, we're going to use a method that only needs a USB thumb drive formatted to XFAT or FAT32, an Ethernet cable, and of course then a Windows PC. So we will need to connect our PS4 up to either a PC or a laptop to trigger the exploit. This does of course then well mean that you need to be able to get your Ethernet cable plugged into both your console and your PC at the same time. Now the exploit we're going to use uses some software called GoldHEN, which is a homebrew enabler. So this is not a persistent mod, and that means that if you power down the console or it crashes, then you're going to need to re-enable GoldHEN. So at the moment there aren't any persistent mods for the PlayStation process, so this re-enabling process does involve reconnecting up the Ethernet cable to your computer and running the exploit software. Because of this then, you can get around this slightly, so leaving the console in rest mode will actually keep GoldHEN active. So if you can, then this would be the preferred thing to do. But as I said, if you do have to power down or if the system crashes, then we do have to go through this re-enabling process. Now, also then, with your Ethernet cable, you do need to be able to make sure that you can get the cable to where you're going to put your PlayStation 4, because obviously if you have to unplug your PlayStation 4 to move it back after the hack, then GoldHEN will need to be re-enabled. So if possible, try and move your laptop or your PC over to where your PS4 is so that you can then get that connection made. Now, as I said, the next videos I'll make will use a special little dongle that you actually leave connected into your PlayStation, and that basically replaces the need for a PC. So with these then, you simply just need to reactivate GoldHEN directly on the console. There's no reconnecting up to PCs and so on. But the good thing about this basic method, and the reason I'm going to be doing it here, is that it does let you get up and running straight away with the parts that you probably have lying around. And more importantly, it also lets us see exactly what is happening as we exploit this network bug and inject our homebrew code into the console. So let's get going and get our console modded. To start the process, we need to make sure we're running the right firmware version on our PlayStation. So at the time of making this video, the latest software release was version 12.50, but this exploit will only work on firmware versions up to 11.00. So if your PS4 is already above 11.0, then you're out of luck at the moment. There will very likely be mods for your firmware in the future, but probably not for a little while, as software writers need time to find new ways to get around Sony's code. So if you're in this situation, my advice would be to go through the blocking updates process that we're going to be looking at in a second to make sure that your console stays on its current firmware. So the lower you can keep the version, the less time it will be before you get an exploit. Now before we do anything else, let's turn off our internet connection to make sure that the console doesn't do anything bad while we're getting set up. So on your PS4, go into the settings, then network, and uncheck the box marked Connect to Internet. Next, we're going to check what current firmware version we're on. So on the console, use the circle button to go back to Settings, and then System, and then select System Information. And this will show your current firmware version. So mine is on 9.60. Now make sure you do remember what this is, as we're going to need to make a decision in a few minutes. But for now, we'll just make sure that our console isn't trying to update itself in the background. So use the circle button to get back to System menu, and then select Automatic Downloads, and uncheck all the options to stop the console downloading any update files. So now that our console is safe, we need to decide if we're going to update our firmware. Now, if you're already on 11.00, then you're fine, there's no need to do anything. But if you're less than 11, you then need to make a decision. So there are a number of viewpoints on whether you should update to 11.00 or not. So lower firmware versions are generally easier to exploit, and there are more options on how you can do that, including various WebKit mods. But of course, the version 11.00 has a more up-to-date operating system code, which will hopefully make it more stable and overall better. So my view is that this new exploit for 11.00 is now pretty stable and mature, with these plugin devices to help make it a whole lot easier to use. So I feel that hackability argument sort of becomes redundant, leaving only then this improved firmware. So I'm actually going to update my PlayStation 4 to 11.00. Now, as usual, please do have a look around at what other people are saying and make your own decision. So if you do decide to stick with a lower version, you can of course upgrade that at any time in the future. So if you do want to upgrade, then let's do that next. Otherwise, just skip this section and go on to the actual exploit code. So first we need the firmware code. Now luckily there are a couple of repositories with all the versions that have been released. Again, if you're on a newer version, unfortunately you can't force a lower version to be installed. So head over to this website here at darksoftware.xyz, and we want to download the 11.00 retail firmware. Now, if this site isn't available, you'll also find the similar files on this website over here at darthsterney.net. Now, you should get a file downloading called PS4 Update 11.0.pup or something very similar. Now, if you get an archive file, then do make sure to extract its contents, as we need to get to the .pup file. Now, if you can't see file extensions at the moment on your computer, then do just simply make sure that you turn them on. We now need to put this file onto a USB drive that we can connect to our PlayStation 4. So make sure you format the drive to either FAT32 or XFAT, and then pop it into your PC. So on the root of the drive, we need to make a folder called PS4, and for this little part we're doing at the moment, all of the files and folders that I'll be creating need to be in capitals. So inside this PS4 folder, make a folder called Update, and then copy the downloaded .pup file into this folder. So lastly, we need to rename that file. So if you go in there and rename it, we need to call it PS4 Update.pup. Again, all capitals, no spaces. And that makes our drive now ready to use in our PlayStation. So pop the USB drive into the console and go to the settings list, and then System Software Update. So if everything is correct, you should see the 11.00 update ready for installation. So select that and select the next option, and then accept any terms to get the update installing. So that'll take a little bit of time to run through, but once that's finished, you should be able to go back to the settings and system information, and again we should now be on firmware version 11.00. So now it's time to start loading the exploit. So this exploit is going to use a bug in the PPPwn network protocol software of the PlayStation 4. Now previous mods used a vulnerability in the WebKit browser, but Sony did fix that a while back. Now, the basic process that we'll be going through is to get the PlayStation 4 to talk to our PC over its Ethernet connection. And our PC will then be running some software that will intercept this connection, and that will then try to trigger that protocol bug. So once that happens, it will then be able to force some code to run on the PlayStation 4, which will then enable our Homebrew code. Now first we need to get hold of the GoldHEN code. So if you head over to this web address, you'll get to the GoldHEN GitHub page. Now we need to click on the All Releases link so that we can get to the version 2.4 downloads. So simply scroll down to the bottom of the latest release post. Now version 2.4 is still listed as beta, but it is the working version for 11.0 firmware. Now on the way you'll see lots of information about the exploit and the versions it supports and who contributed to writing it. Developers have put a lot of effort into these exploits, so please do consider a donation if you can afford one. It's not compulsory, but obviously helps them continue their work to hack the next versions. So in the Assets section, you'll find the code downloads. So we want the GoldHEN archive file, and so just simply download that to somewhere sensible on your computer. Now once that's downloaded, we need to go over and extract those files, and you should get something like I've got on the screen at the moment. Now the goldhen.bin file is the actual Homebrew enabling software, and that needs to be copied onto the root of our USB drive so that we can then get it onto the PlayStation 4. So back to our GoldHEN download, in the PPPwn folder, you'll probably find another archive file. Now inside that, you'll find files for each of the firmware versions that the exploit supports. So you simply need to extract the one that matches your firmware version onto your PC. So not onto the USB drive, just onto your PC. So this is actually the stage 2 file, and this is the payload that our PC is going to send back to the PlayStation 4 to start the exploit. So now that we've got that goldhen.bin file on our USB drive, and that's all we need for the moment, so we can actually plug the USB drive back into our PlayStation so it is ready for use. Now we now need to go back onto our PC and get some software that's going to run on it, which will do the talking to the console and deliver that stage 2 payload. Now there do seem to be a number of places to download this code, and some seem, well, more legitimate than others. So Modded Warfare, who is one of the leading PS4 modding YouTubers, has released an app that will run the exploit for you. So the link to his latest version can be found on Modded Warfare's Twitter feed, so please do use this link. Now, and as usual, you'll find the links for all of this in the description. So going to the link will take you to a download page. Now my Norton Internet Protection did not like this download and blocked it. So I did have to force it to download, and the file itself then did cause other warnings, so I decided to use a disposable PC, which is simply the PC that I have in my project area, which doesn't actually have any important data on it. However, having run it, everything does seem to be okay. Again, if you do get warnings with your internet protection software, then please do make your own decisions about whether to proceed or not. Now, if this issue with possible malware is a concern, I would use one of the commercial dongle devices to run the exploit that I'll be covering in my next PlayStation 4 video. Now, these do cost around £20 to £30, but they are fully self-contained. They're a little circuit that simply plugs into the back of your PlayStation 4 so that you don't actually ever need to connect it to your PC. So if we are using this PPPwn GUI software, then simply you do need to extract the code from that. And in there, you'll then find two files. One is called install first, and that just simply needs to be run, and that will install a little bit of driver software onto your PC. So do that now. Next, we need to run the PPPwn GUI.exe file, and that will get our PC ready for the PlayStation 4 to connect to it. So this should open up a window for the PS4 loader software. And we now need to give it the stage 2 payload package that we downloaded with our GoldHEN code. So just simply find that file and connect it up to this PS4 loader. Next then we need to set up the config details. So we'll be using our PC's Ethernet connection. So make sure that the correct one is selected. Then make sure you select the matching firmware version for your PlayStation 4. And our PC is now ready to start the exploit. But don't do that at the moment. Just leave everything as it is and don't press that Run Exploit button. So we now need to jump back onto our PlayStation 4. So we first of all need to connect it to our PC with an Ethernet cable. So once you've done that, we now need to go into the settings page and select network. Now we want to turn on the internet connection again, and then we're going to set up an internet connection. So we'll be using a LAN cable, and we're going to be using a custom setup. And the protocol we'll use will be this PPPwn. So we can use any username and password that we want. So it doesn't matter what we type in here. So just make up something and put those into those boxes. So once you've done that, our DNS then needs to be set to automatic. And also then MTU seems to be automatic. And we don't want to use a proxy server. So you should now be on this end screen. So at the moment, don't press the test internet connection. Just press the circle button to get back out to your network settings. So we're now going to actually run the exploit. So back on your PC, you need to hit that Run Exploit button and wait for the PS4 loader to say that it is loading. Then, on your PlayStation 4, select the Test Internet Connection option. So the two computers will now start talking to each other. So keep an eye on the PS4 loader app on the PC. This is the one that's going to show you the actual exploit progress. You will also get some probably error messages and various things showing up on your PlayStation 4. Now mostly these are just part of the exploit running through, so just ignore them for now. So the exploit is going to go through 4 stages, which you'll see being processed in the PC app. So just keep watching to see how it goes. Now the exploit doesn't always work first time, so if it does error out, just take the PlayStation back to the network settings screen, rerun the exploit on the PC, and then retest the connection on the PlayStation 4, and eventually you will get that running through correctly. So if you do then finally get to the stage 4 where it sends the payload and then hopefully completes the hack, you'll find on your PlayStation it will tell you that the payload was successful and that your console has been PPPwned and it is now running GoldHEN. So your PlayStation 4 is now actually modded. So there is sort of one common error that you will get where the PlayStation 4 is not able to obtain an IP address, and this usually means that it wasn't able to connect to a DNS server. To solve this, you need to make sure that the PlayStation Ethernet connection can access your PC's live internet connection. So on your PC, you use your start button and then type in network connections. So this should take you to the network connections control panel. Now, if you're using a Wi-Fi connection, you need to do what's known as bridging that with your Ethernet. So simply select either your Wi-Fi connection or your Ethernet connection, then Control select the other one, then right-click on one of them and select Bridge, and this will basically connect your Ethernet connection and your Wi-Fi connection together so that they can use information from each other. The other way of doing that then is to simply right-click on your internet connection, so either your Wi-Fi or your Ethernet, whichever one you're using, and then select its properties. Then go to the Sharing tab, and then tick the box that allows other computers to connect to your computer's internet connection. And then simply then select the adapter that the PS4 is connected to. So this should basically then allow your PS4 to use your PC's internet connection so that it can then get that IP address and then continue with the exploit. So during this first exploit run, the file that we had stored on the USB drive has been copied now to the hard drive in the PS4, so we don't need the USB drive connected anymore. So really now we just need to get our console set up properly to use our GoldHEN software. So first off then, we can reconnect our PlayStation 4 to the internet as normal. So I'm going to use my home Wi-Fi connection here and just go through that process. So the PS4 can go online, and it's safe to do so, as GoldHEN will actually start blocking any automatic updates by itself. So even if you do have to power down and restart your PlayStation 4, GoldHEN will stop it from updating itself. Any updates, of course, would overwrite GoldHEN, and you're then back to the start again. So what we need to do now is to get some homebrew software loaded up and start using our PlayStation. So if you go to the main settings menu, you will see a new entry in there for GoldHEN. And if you do go back out to the XMB, you'll also see it then at the far left of the list. Now if you select that, you'll get to the GoldHEN control page. And there are a whole range of settings that you can play around with. Now, some of the important ones to set up, first of all, I would set up an FTP server in the servers menu. Now this lets you connect to your PlayStation 4 from your computer over your network. So with this you can transfer files very easily, which is a very handy thing to be able to do. I would also enable the bin loader, as that does then allow you to upload other payloads to help reconfigure the way your PlayStation works. Now you must also go into the settings menu, and this is really probably the most important bit here, and you need to enable the rest mode support. So this keeps GoldHEN active while the console is in rest mode, so that when you wake it up, GoldHEN is still running. So remember, if GoldHEN ever stops running, so either you have a power down or if your computer crashes and you have to reset it, then you will need to reconnect the Ethernet cable, reset up your network connection and run that exploit again. So it is a little bit of a hassle. And again, as I keep mentioning, these dongles do get round that problem. So with all of that set up, we can now start actually using some homebrew apps. Now, homebrew apps can be installed onto the PlayStation 4 by simply copying the software from our PC onto a USB drive and plugging that in. So let's do that then to install the Homebrew Store app. And this app then will allow us to install most of the other homebrew apps, just simply directly downloading them onto our PlayStation 4. So if you head over to pkg-zone.com, this is a place where you can download a whole range of PlayStation 4 homebrew apps. So we want to get the Homebrew Store, so at the top menu, click the HB-Store button, and then you need to download, of course, the PlayStation 4 version. So this will download a .pkg file, and we need to save that onto the root of our USB drive. So once you've got that, you can simply pop the USB drive back into the PlayStation and then go over to the GoldHEN section. We want to go to Debug Settings, and inside here you'll find the Package Installer option. So the package source should be set to your USB drive. If not, just simply select that and make sure it is selected as USB drive. And then we can go to the top option, which is the package installer. And you should then see that it is listing your store-r2.pkg file. And that, of course, is the one that we've just downloaded onto our USB drive. Now, if you have downloaded any other apps at the same time, you should see those listed as well. So from here, we can either select individual apps to install, or there is an option then to just simply install all of the available apps. So once you've installed those, we can then go back to our home XMB menu, and you should now see our apps listed. So I've just installed the Homebrew Store. So if I open that up, I can now simply go through and select apps and have them directly downloaded and installed onto my PlayStation 4 directly from the internet. So that's your PS4 fully modded with the GoldHEN Homebrew enabler. From here, you can really start to explore the features and applications, such as other console emulators, games cheats, and of course backing up your games disks and installing games from those backup files. Now, over the next few videos, I'll be covering all aspects of PlayStation 4 Homebrew, as well as much more convenient methods of enabling GoldHEN using a small microcontroller-based dongle. So do make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel to get those videos as soon as I publish them. I look forward to seeing you again very soon, and bye for now. For more games programming, electronics projects, and retro gaming, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my website.